Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Rafai Yoseni. And despite bilateral talks to curb xenophobia in South Africa with President Muhammadu Buhari and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, the xenophobic threat to the lives of Nigerians living in South Africa is yet to cease. In fact, at the ongoing 7th Tokyo International Conference for African Development in Yokohama, Japan, the two presidents met while answering questions from journalists and discussing issues relating to the well-being of their citizens and ways to further strengthen trade relations between the two largest African economies. In spite of the ongoing Jihad 7 Japan involving the two presidents, report has it that another Nigerian has been killed in South Africa. It will be recalled that over 120 Nigerians had so far been reported killed and their businesses destroyed on xenophobic attacks across South Africa over the years. So joining us now from our ABUJA studio for a chat on this new xenophobic development is Professor Isaac Nnamdi Obasi, a professor of political science at the University of Abuja, Nigeria. Great to have you, Prof. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rufai.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Make sense of xenophobia for us in the southern part of Africa, because a lot of people look and say this is one too many happening.
Correct. I don't want to tow the usual conventional approach of lamentation, that is as if it is only a Nigerian problem. Xenophobic attack in South Africa has a long and recurring history. Nigeria is just one of them, because when a Nigerian is killed, we get to know. If a Mozambican is killed, it doesn't make news here. It makes news in their own country. Xenophobic attack in South Africa has been very widespread and has long history. I don't know the extent to allow me to delve into history.
You can, please. You can. You can delve into history.
Okay. 10 years before independence, in precisely 1984, the Mozambicans fled to South Africa. And let me put it in context that given the apartheid nature in South Africa and the nature of colonization in the region beyond South Africa, the South African region, you had liberation wars, unrest here and there that led people to flee their country to safe places. South Africa was seen to be one of those places. In spite of the apartheid nature of South Africa, the Bantustan homelands, where people are condemned to stay who are not given actual right under apartheid, that allowed people such as those migrants from Mozambique, that particular year, 50 to 350,000 moved into South Africa. And even though they were not given refugee status, some areas welcomed them, some others did not. Even areas where they were welcomed later became hostile and confined them to that area, never to move to any other thing. That's part of the roots of the xenophobic feeling. The same thing was extended to the Congolese. Congolese were the next to be hostilely attacked and treated. And after that, the feeling of hatred for, if call it morbid fear and hatred for foreigners, that's the xenophobia, started increasing. And what we see later is the dynamics of that after independence in 1994. The nature of South African politics, its economy, and the society itself, the dynamics of all this have pushed xenophobic tendency, attitudes, and violent actions too far, beyond what anybody in Africa can tolerate. So definitely it is not a Nigerian specific problem at all. I appreciate your background. I recognize the meeting by President Ramaphosa and our own president in Japan. But for me, at the end of the day, you see that my recommendation will not be just ordinary bilateral, because the problem is well situated in South Africa. There must be a change in South Africa, because even its politics, among political parties, they've accused themselves, each other, for stoking or spiking and fueling the xenophobic attitudes and attacks. So there are specific accusations. Even as we talk, President Zuba's war song have been used several times by those who are protesting, who are anti-immigrants.
All right, let's expatiate on this even more and talk on the sidelines of this. You have lived in South Africa. You have lived in and around Botswana.
Yeah, in Botswana,
you have
a neighboring country. Yes.
You have lived in Botswana. The question a lot of people ask is, why is it that Nigerians are specifically targeted? And I'm going to say, why is it that Nigerians are specifically targeted? Because you remember the case of the killing of Lucky Dube, the popular reggae artist in South Africa. His accuser said he didn't think he was a Nigerian. So it looks as though there's a direct assault on the Nigerian. Is it because we are doing well and we're thriving economically? Because this is getting one too many. There are African Americans in South Africa, but they have not been attacked this way.
Excellent question. Excellent question. That's why I told you that I'm not here to tell that line. The issue is that, like you rightly pointed out, there's a dynamics. What has been happening that previously, Nigerians were not holding sway in the economy of South Africa. It grew over time. Then, and mostly at the informal level, then the Mozambicans, the Somalis, the Ethiopians, the Malawians, the Zimbabweans, all have been attacked over time for stealing South African jobs, even when they were not stealing anything. I'm telling you the truth. They have been attacked depending on how the locals, the citizens, see these people as dominantly displacing them, whether rightly or wrongly. Let me give you an example. At the time, the Zimbabwean farm workers, a community, we are completely displaced, rooted out of where they were living and told to go home. The issue of go home to your country didn't start today. It didn't start today. And let me give you an insight of over the years. I think this was around 2007 or 8. And we attended a meeting in South African embassy. They appointed, or selected rather, invited some of us, professors of University of Botswana, to come and talk. Some of us were not foreigners, we are foreigners. And I told them right there that in spite of Nigeria's contribution to decolonization in South Africa, this is the treatment we are having. What was that treatment? That if a Nigerian is carrying a portfolio to a genuine investor from Nigeria, is carrying a portfolio back to South African airport, he will be suspected as a job snatcher. Why his European counterparts, who probably is not even a genuine investor, will be allowed in, visa-free, to come and invest, rightly or wrongly? Why Africans, at that time, particularly Nigerians, because Nigerians have started making route into South Africa following the independence and the growing of the economy, empowerment that the blacks were getting, they thought that area also was a good mine, gold mine. They started going. So Nigeria's dominance in South African economy was growing over time. And what the locals were doing, rightly or wrongly, what you call displaced aggression, and relative deprivation also. So they think, oh, this is the group that is now taking over our jobs, that attack them. So it has been historically and been growing. You are hearing of Nigeria today. Statistics I have over Africa attacks, South African attacks to foreigners. Nigerians are not well mentioned as you are chronicling them. The number, yes, the number is too high. I accept and I agree. But other countries have been attacked too. So the problem is in South Africa. It's not necessarily a Nigerian problem.
The problem is in South Africa. There are some numbers.
Excellent.
But we only remember the case recently of the Nigerian that hold a couple of bed and breakfast places of residence that was killed in South Africa by the police because he had lodged a complaint before now. So it's not even street racism again, but it is institutionalized racism. So how can, institutionalized xenophobia, I should say. So how can you stem that in the bud? And you know this is prevalent with the South African police. You are very conversant with South Africa. You remember the case of Marikana Mines.
You're right. Let me
Marikana Mines.
Let me help you out there. Let me help you out there. It's not entirely a Nigerian problem. You see, the police, it has been established right clearly that the police has anti-immigrant feelings. In fact, xenophobic attack and treatment call it mistreatment, to refugees, to asylum seekers, and to foreigners. That has been established. There was a time government was denying it there, but in 2000 and I think it was in 2000 and is it 4 or 10 that the Home Affairs Minister accepted that indeed there is a hostile attitude of the South African police towards immigrants. That one is established. So whether it is a Nigerian, let me tell you, for instance, in South Africa, the type of killings you see, you can't see it anywhere. They throw people out of the train. They've done that to Somalis. Between Johannesburg and Pretoria, they threw them out. They threw also another group of 3. And so it's common. Some other nationals have been stoned to death. Not just by killing the way we're hearing about Nigerians' own. Yes, that is true. But I'm also telling you that primitive way of killing. So that the South African government has a huge task to do in reorientating the minds of the citizens, who themselves, as freedom fighters, themselves caused without knowing. If the current president was addressing his, during his campaign this year, I think March, he made statements that he's going to deal with foreigners who were involved in crimes. The way it was put and interpreted meant it was a fertilizer to locals who want to deal with anybody in the name of crime. They may not necessarily have committed crime. The looting of shops you see now on Nigerian shops started long ago, over 15 years ago. They've been looting the shops of Somalians, Ethiopians, Pakistanians, Bangladesh people, nationals. They've been looting their shops. So what you are seeing is just the dynamics of what has been happening. And we are the receiving end now because a lot of Nigerians are there and they've started making impact in the economy. And this is also the usual story, touching our job, taking over our rights, dealing with using this again, is there. So they can easily stoke any reason to attack. It's not definitely a Nigerian affair, as far as what I have read so far, widely shows.
But we're seeing a very scary pattern, and I know we'll be going for a break real soon. We're seeing a very scary pattern, and this pattern is continuous, and it's something we should nip in the bud. And I'm excited that the president did have a word with the president of South Africa, because we've seen a pattern like this that could lead to a particular group of people sent out of a country. You remember the case of Idi Amin Dada in 1976 that woke up from a dream one day and said he had a divine revelation that every Indian and Pakistani that control the economy of Uganda should be pushed out of the country. Uganda. I mean, if you have a president that wakes up from a dream in South Africa someday and say everybody leaves the economy, wouldn't that be one too many? Isn't it time to nip it in the bud?
Excellent. Rufai, that is correct. But let me also tell you that the killing about Nigerians, which you know is very high and I condemn totally, has not reached a stage where Nigeria say, okay, let me go and evacuate my Nigerian citizens there. Government has not thought of that. A couple of countries in Africa, Mozambique and Somalia, they have evacuated their citizens from South Africa. That tells you the large-scale attack on their citizens that warranted their having officially making arrangement to evacuate them, bring them home. That shows you how bad it is. So the government there has a role to play. So they have fixed a meeting with our president, I think in October. I don't see that as the solution. African-wide solution must come in. AU must take position about this. It's not about Nigerians alone. South Africans are hostile to foreigners. They forget their histories very easily. And that itself is condemnable.
But it gets to a stage where it gets one too many. You say, okay, we'll come back after this quick commercial break and talk to you more about this and even more things. Thanks a lot, sir. All right, still the morning show here on Arise News, and we're still talking to Professor Isaac Nnamdi Obasi, a professor of political science at the University of Abuja, Nigeria. We're talking about xenophobia in South Africa. So I was about to ask before we went on that break, isn't it going to get to that stage very soon, owing to the fact that it got to a stage with Libya too in Nigeria that we had to start sending planes to go bring our citizens back home? Some will say, okay, despite it's because there's a government breakdown in Libya. But that was how it's pretty much started too, after the government breakdown in Libya, after Gaddafi was sent out, and you now have two factions in Libya with Khalifa Haftar and the other faction.
Okay, thank you very much. But if let me make this correction before my colleagues begin to ask when I change to political science. Yes, I'm a political scientist, but my department is public administration.
Okay, public administration department. Okay, yeah.
So, yes, it's a kind of marriage between husband and wife. They are not much different, but I'm public administration.
Okay.
That's my department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Prof.
Okay, let me go.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
Yeah. Okay. The point, I like the perspective you are following. I'm also trying to make this so that our foreign mission, our diplomats here at home can also know how to approach this. That it may not necessarily be a bilateral thing. You know, if you take a multilateral approach, continental through the continental body, AU and the rest of them, you may be achieving much result. I don't see South Africa is a strong democratic nation. And I'm telling you, they have better democratic church rooted than us. And in Africa, they can be trusted, even though they have their own peculiar problems. I tell you that it cannot reach that stage. That is a situation where that this you be comparing South Africa with what is happening in Libya. No. There are two different scenarios. But let me address your fears. Let me address your fears. You see, for countries that are governed by laws, never mind the point I've made that the South African police have mistreat foreigners. No doubt about them. No doubt about that. But let me tell you that there is a reason for some of these things coming up, and so that we can see how to attack them. Between 2010 and 2017, the number of immigrants in South Africa grew from 2 million to 4 million. I mean, that's higher than many states in Nigeria here. You know, the number of immigrants. So South African citizens, definitely react to this, that the numbers are so many. Remember, historically, I told you, part of the influx was through wars of liberation in that South African region and the rest of them. Many came there as refugees and asylum seekers and all whatnot. But beyond that, a lot of people go to South Africa thinking that the greener pasture is there. So they go. We advise our citizens to do legitimate business, to be within the formal sector of the economy, and to be well protected by the law. Let me tell you some of the things that happen. If you run a petty shop in South Africa, no matter the area you are, you think you are hiding, it's even worse. Because those remote areas, the community guys, the people there, in fact, arrange and loot the shops. Mobilize idle guys to go and arrange and loot the shops. So look at what happened in Ghana the other day. Our colleagues, University of Lagos, who went on sabbatical, was, badly treated by the Ghanaian government. I say so because evidence showed that they did not follow the South African EU declaration on academic freedom. If they did, of course, you shouldn't have been treated that way. But the point there is that the citizens of Ghana were getting increasingly agitated about the dominance of foreigners. Nigeria, dominant among those who they think were taking over the informal sector of the economy. The government was trying to protect that. So if you come to South Africa, our people going there should look at their economy. Look at what the people in South Africa like doing. Leave it for them. Add value to the economy. Do certain things that definitely they are not doing, and they don't say you are snatching their job. That is the issue. It's an old story they normally tell.
Professor
over
Obasi,
and over again.
Professor Obasi, I'll cite two instances.
Thank you.
Is it the same South African police that is known to be a killing machine, that some people say it's a killing machine? If you look at cases like Sharpeville and the recent case in Marikana, in which the current president of South Africa was mentioned in that case, and if you say we should leave, you remember the story of Marikana. Obviously, the current president of South Africa had some shares in that same mining company.
You're a good historian. Go ahead. You're a good historian.
And if you say we should leave those businesses for them, can they also leave telecoms for us? Can they also leave departmental stores for us in this country?
Telecom is formal business. Your government gave them license, and the rest of them is a formal business, from highly formalized business. We're not talking about that one. You can't be a tech engineer in South Africa and be suffering some of these things. We know isolated cases, and I've told you South African police is anti-immigrant in their attitude. Not all. You can't condemn all. But also, don't forget, that's the historical angle you were bringing, which I appreciate. Don't forget that inherited police system the values have not completely, colonial apartheid values have not completely wiped out. So you can see vestiges of those things coming up in the mentality of the police guys. When black policemen were recruited, they think they are as important and they wear power as white policemen in those years. That mentality is still there. So I'm not saying that Nigerians cannot do certain businesses outright. I'm saying add values and be a little bit more sensitive and choose areas where you will not be easily attacked. There are many things that are advertised by South African institutions calling for, professionals from outside South Africa. They welcome
Professor Obasi,
addition to their stock of expertise.
Professor Obasi, you said Nigeria should choose where the informal sector that they will not be easily attacked. Just like you telling an Indian man or a Pakistani man not to trade. Is that not who we are? Don't we thrive in the informal sector? The informal sector is about the biggest in this country, yes. Professor Obasi. So you say Nigeria shouldn't thrive in the informal sector?
Right. I'm aware of that. I have publication in that area. I'm aware of that in Africa, but I'm coming. See where I'm coming.
Yes, sir.
If you come to Nigeria, there are countries that are very serious at enforcing their laws. Get this point well. An Indian can come here and get along, live here, live everywhere, migrate. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks he's occupying a space he should occupy. Because sometimes our laws are not enforced. If it's in Botswana, you can't employ anybody beyond what you're allowed to employ. If you do, the clerks, the messengers, will go and report you to labor office immediately. And if you do anything wrong, those who will report you are not even the labor inspectors. They are the people who you don't think, they are conscious, they are mobilized. They know about their rights. They will go and report you. So I'm saying that South Africa, given the way they police the area and they try to enforce laws, given that way, I'm saying if you are a foreigner, you come down there, look before you leap. That's the point I am making. The analogy you gave, I agree with you. We cannot tell the Lebanese not to be doing their business. But you do their business, know that this is not Nigeria. Anything can go in your country. It's not governed by, rule of law is in the rule books, it's not strictly enforced. And if that is the case, many people get away in this country, but they may not get away elsewhere. That's the point that you made. It's in their mind, our own people. But on South Africa, the government has to do a lot. They are part of the problem, government of South Africa. I say it up to tomorrow. Because all of them, even Zuma and Mbeki, President before him, made some statement that we are also accused as indirectly fueling xenophobic attack and violence.
All right, Professor Obasi, real quickly, I have been reading a lot of the works of Franz Koggen. Franz Koggen is, as appointed director of International Race Relations Institute in South Africa. In fact, that's the oldest think tank out of Africa. It was set up in the 1940s to talk about race relations. And he did write a book called Time Travelers, the future of South Africa will look like. And he started positing them with using the scenario planning methods, pretty much propagated in the 70s by the likes of Shell and the likes. And he was talking about a burgeoning unemployment rate. Currently, it's pegged at 13%. And despite the fact that it's pegged at 13%, there's a lot of race attrition, as it were. Nigerians are not like xenophobia and things like that. But you want to also juxtapose that with a 25% unemployment, 25% unemployment rate in this country as we speak, over 20% unemployment rate, and there's no race attrition.
Rufai, you are correct.
And there's no race attrition.
Yes, so, you are correct. Let me put that in context.
Yes.
Let me put that in context. Remember, there was a time in this country there was Ghana must go.
Yes.
You remember? You recall?
Yeah, 83.
That attitude that time is xenophobic.
Yes.
They must go. We don't want them. And they went. How many times has it occurred in this country, that attitude? I want you to understand what I'm saying. That one-off thing that happened, has it been occurring like it's occurring in South Africa?
No.
South African one is historical and it continues every day. Since 2009, 10 didn't happen. World Cup, 11 it didn't happen. 13 it happened. 14 it happened. 15 was the worst year in xenophobic widespread attack in South Africa, apart from 2008. 16 it happened. 17 this year, 2019, in Durban it happened. So it is reoccurring. A study carried by South African Migration Project, SAMP, that survey was trying to gauge the kind of xenophobic feeling across Africa, the Southern African region, 14 Southern African region members. And they found out that South Africa had the harshest, that is the worst form of hatred for xenophobic, for foreigners, was South Africa, the highest, 21%. You have distant country following there was Namibia and Botswana, 10%. That feeling is there. Even 64% said, even if they are allowed in, 21% they don't allow them. 64 or 62 said, even if they're allowed in, there must be strict limitation about what they do. This is a study carried out in South Africa. And it shows how xenophobia has been ingrained in their, call it in their gene. That's why I said the South African government has a lot to do. So it has been happening every year. Our own, that was one of here in Ghana, Ghana must go. It's a long time thing, and once it happened, that was it. So it may not necessarily be that unemployment would make you immediately to do the. Nigerians are more creative, trying to know what to do and find space to exist. Some South Africans are lazy, you know that yourself. That's why the white men chose them to go there and be maltreating them. And themselves, after being maltreated and they came out of it, they want to maltreat their fellow South Africans. The treatment they're giving to Zimbabweans, Malawians, Mozambicans, I mean, is worse off than even the way I'm talking about Nigeria. That one is a group. They do a group attack. You know? That's the point I'm making. The problem is South African politics, society, and economy.
Let's quickly dial back historically now. I know you're a student of history, and when we look back at the antecedents of South Africa,
you are more of it than myself.
The formation of the union with the likes of Jan Smart in the early hundreds and Verwoerd and things like that, and currently the crisis happening in '64 before it came together again on the Commonwealth and things like that. When you look at all of this, don't you think it's time for South Africans to have conversations about their own future rather than take this out on other people as we wrap up?
Excellent, excellent. I agree with you on the same page. I agree with you. I agree with you. You know they dance, at some time they dance on the gallery. Zuma used that to went into politics. The boy who he used, you remember him, that young boy, what is his name now? His party is making waves now, taking over some seats in Pretoria and Johannesburg.
Oh, yeah, that's the DA, Democratic Alliance.
That guy now is, yes, that guy now is a thought is his flesh.
Oh, yeah,
but he used
Julius Malema.
He used them to come to power. Say all those kind of populist statements that will
Prof,
that
we'd like to thank you. We'd like to
votes.
thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely come back to you and talk about this even more. It's also a great time having the banter with you, Prof. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you. Thank you.